In fighting, I want to be remembered. You know, I want to be like a guy people put in DVDs and rewatch him fight and show their friends. You know, I want to have a legacy. Not just win fights and a guy who was in the UFC for a while and did well. You know, I want to be a guy that's a staple in mixed martial arts.
Every once in a while, MMA gives us something special. A story that finds its ending at the perfect time.
July 19th is going to be my final fight. I'm going to lay the gloves down in Louisiana where it all started for me. Me and Max Holloway are going to fight 5 rounds, main event, pay-per-view for his BMF title.
It's the closing of a legacy built on grit, growth, and giving fans everything he had. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Poirier fought the best, took the hard road, and chased greatness without shortcuts. Now, it all comes full circle as he faces Max Holloway for the 3rd time. A fighter who represents the very same spirit.
This is as big a fight as you can get in your retirement fight, and it's for the BMF championship. Those guys are gonna rock that Smoothie King arena, man, and I can't wait.
I know he's trying to ride into the sunset, but it might be a little sad because I wanna go out there and get my hand raised. If you're trying to get someone into watching the UFC, tell them to tune in July 19th because me and Dustin, it's gonna be a fun fight.
No noise, no bad blood, just 2 legends, a BMF belt, and a whole lot of heart, savagery, and staying power.
For Dustin to go and get his retirement fight in New Orleans, his home state in New Orleans where it all began, I know it means so much to him. And to have this trilogy fight for the BMF title on pay-per-view, baby, be his last one, you can't ask for anything more.
But before Dustin Poirier's legend officially comes to an end, we've been blessed by the Express for one last ride, one final war with the diamond in his right place. One last dance of violence at UFC 318.
Holloway, Poirier, 3 for the BMF title, July 19th in New Orleans.
The BMF belt didn't really mean that much to most hardcore fans until it was won by Max Holloway at UFC 300. When Holloway pointed to the ground with 10 seconds to go and called on Justin Gaethje to slug it out, that symbolic title took on a whole different level of significance.
When you think about when we were sitting in that room and we created the BMF, tonight totally embodied what that belt was built for. And there should be a picture of that fight in the fucking dictionary when you look up BMF. That was the ultimate holy shit moment of all time.
Watching the underdog flatline one of the most durable fighters in the history of the sport like that, yeah, that was something special. In a similar vein, seeing Dustin Poirier buck the trend of the youth feeding on the old by knocking out Benoit Saint-Denis was a beautiful act of defiance in a sport that feeds on the past. And he didn't do half bad against the champion Islam Makhachev either.
Islam Makhachev is still the best of the best, but I tell you what, it wasn't easy. Dustin did himself proud. He showed up, he had a fantastic effort. He made Islam Makhachev, and he truly made him work to remain the champion of the world.
Looking back at their own history, Dustin submitted Max early in their first fight. Years later, after both had evolved dramatically, they faced off again in a brutal 5-round war, another hard-fought victory for Poirier. Now, at UFC 318, their trilogy reaches its final chapter. But those battles are just pieces of a much larger story.
There's nobody else I'd rather be standing across from when I lay the gloves down or when I go into my final fight. Max is a legend. I got so much respect for the guy. But it'll be a completely different fight. There are gaps of years between our fights. The first one was 2012, then 2019, now 2025. But those fights we can't look back at them. Each fight is a different fight. It's the same guy, but we've been in the gym and fought so many great world-class guys. We're both different fighters every time, so I'm looking forward to this.
It's impossible to ignore the shadow of defeat both Holloway and Poirier carry into this fight. For Poirier, the loss to Islam may have closed the book on his title hopes, but not on his story. This will be his final walk, win or lose, and either way, he goes out as a bona fide Hall of Famer. But for Max, seeing him get dropped and finished by Ilia Topuria like that was a moment that many fans hated. It was like seeing Frankie Edgar's legendary chin getting cracked by Brian Ortega. It was hard to believe what we were watching. But even the most durable fighters of all time eventually lose their iron jaw, which makes Holloway's decision to finally make a more permanent move to 155 pounds very interesting. On one hand, purging himself of that tough weight cut down to the 145-pound limit could be a hugely positive thing. On the other hand, facing the big hitters at lightweight might be a problem, and Dustin Poirier can crack. His ability to fight in the pocket and counter-strike with the very best was an issue for Max in their most recent fight at UFC 236, just like it was a problem for Conor McGregor in both of their pay-per-view blockbusters.
Dustin Poirier, we're going to see the best version of him. So almost every single time that he steps in the octagon, you know violence is guaranteed with Dustin Poirier, and that's why the people love him.
In true knucklehead fashion, I'm going to stand in the middle and trade with Max, and we're going to bleed and put on a show for the last one.
People only say you're only as good as your last fight, and everybody know how my last fight went, so I gotta erase that memory, go out there come July 19 and remind everybody who I am. We're looking to make a statement.
Dustin is a right-handed southpaw who prioritizes that lead hand, shifting into space awkwardly in a way that tends to catch his opponents off guard. But let's make one thing clear about this matchup. If we learned one major thing about Holloway's last step up in weight, it's that he packs an improved punch at 155. In fact, this recent run that he's been on has seen him shed his reputation as a guy who doesn't have too much firepower. He KO'd the Korean Zombie, dropped Volkanovski, stung Arnold Allen badly in round 5, and destroyed Justin Gaethje. Holloway's physicality is clearly improving with age, and if you remember his rematch with the Diamond back in 2019, it just seemed like Max couldn't really hurt Dustin. Sure, Poirier did well against Makhachev and didn't get KO'd, damaging his chin in the process. But this version of Dustin has also been head-kicked into oblivion by Justin Gaethje in recent times, and there's no denying that he's taken on a boatload of damage in his career. I'm not trying to sell this as a battle of potentially damaged chins, because both guys are obviously pretty durable. But there's definitely a lot of X factors in play here that could well make this a very tough fight to predict.
They've changed so much. Dustin making such a significant run in the lightweight division, and I think Max showing that he's got the skill to be at 155, and not just the skill, but he's got the ability to carry the power as well as take the shots of the guys that are bigger when he fought Justin Gaethje.
Either way, for both men, this is an incredible fight. People of New Orleans, don't come into this one expecting Dustin Poirier to walk away with this one unscathed.
Max is not an easy fight. You don't fight Max Holloway and you're like, give me an easy one on my way out. Max Holloway is the real deal, and he's the man with the BMF title.
Poirier seems to be looking at this fight as a standalone showcase, a well-earned send-off against a fellow fan favorite to close out an excellent fighting career. But are you telling me that DP wouldn't be in a prime position for another huge fight if he went out there and KO'd Holloway in brutal fashion? This is the number 4 guy in the world fighting number 5. These two are right in the thick of the title picture, and with Islam now gone from the division, there's a bunch of fresh matchups and rematches for either man. This might look like a standalone legacy-driven matchup, but don't get it twisted. The UFC 318 main event carries real consequences for both fighters. For Dustin Poirier, this is the farewell. One final fight to close out a legendary career. And if he walks off into retirement with the BMF belt over his shoulder in front of his home crowd, that's a storybook ending.
They didn't just book it at home for Dustin. They're not just main eventing Dustin. They're not just putting a title up for Dustin that could walk out the door, which is simply unprecedented. They did bring Dustin somebody that we know Dustin can beat, and we know that because he's beaten him not once, but twice.
But if Max Holloway spoils the moment, he doesn't just defend the belt, he adds another elite win to his resume, walks away with a boost in momentum, and puts himself right there in the title conversation at 155.
You know, the message that I'm trying to send is that I'm still here. I still have title contentions in my mind, you know, and I go out there, I do my thing, I make a statement, I get a statement win. Who's to say your boy not fighting for 155 undisputed title at the end of the year? So can't let this guy get this one. There's no way, you know.
Dustin Poirier is going to approach his fight. I think there's that sense of let it all go. I have no concerns. I'm free. You want to go out, you know, on top. Those type of fighters, I think, are extremely dangerous.
I'm not letting the sport retire me. I'm retiring from the sport. But we got one more hell to walk through July 19th. How beautiful is this? I get to go out on top, potentially getting my hand raised, leaving the sport, retiring from the sport with the world championship belt on a pay-per-view. Come on, man. At home, let's go.
This is more than just a trilogy, more than just a send-off. This is a main event that matters in more ways than one.
It's more than just a fight. It really is the end of an era. For Dustin Poirier, he has an opportunity to do it one more time. But Max Holloway at 155 looked amazing. If that's the guy that shows up, that's a hard fight for everybody. Everybody.